Well, I want to first thank Dr. Hung for saying yes in the heart. And I see so many of my brothers and sisters here who are active and working for peace. And I want to recognize the many diplomats and representatives of nations who've come to honor this highest of human values, love. There are two words that every human being has that are extremely important: no and yes. We can say no to animosity and yes to friendship. We can say no to selfishness and yes to generosity. We can say no to injustice and prejudice and yes to equality and justice. We can say no to apathy and yes to love. If we give away these two words to forgetfulness, we will not reach our humanity. And if we give away the conscience, we will not be able to use these two words, because it is the conscience that gives us the capacity to distinguish between that to which we should say no and that to which we should say yes. Now, the nations of the world are institutions of law. They're not human beings. They may be run by human beings, but like corporations, they're created by law. And by virtue of that, they don't have conscience. By virtue of the way in which they're created, they don't have conscience. They operate purely in their self-interest. And thus we have a dilemma in today's world. Because the issues that humanity faces at this moment in time cannot be met selfishly. No selfish nation, no matter how powerful, can protect the climate. No nation, no matter how powerful, can protect the oceans, from which 50 to 70% of our oxygen comes. No nation alone can address a pandemic, because the viruses are so smart, they figured out they don't need passports. And so we're in a situation in which the institutions we've created are operating without saying yes and no appropriately. So we need some new thinking. Like Albert Einstein said, the breaking and splitting of the atom changed everything but our thinking, and so we drift toward catastrophe. We have the technical solutions to protect the climate. We have the technical solutions to address pandemics and protect the oceans, but we don't have the thinking correctly. The most important thing in thinking is determining what's true. So let's start out with truth. The truth is we are one human family. That's the truth. That's really important. So we need to first and foremost have human security. Human security says the purpose of every state is to protect its citizens. And states can't protect their citizens unless they put human security first, so that we can protect the climate, deal with pandemics, and not ever again continue the profligacy and madness of militarism. Don't tell me your values, show me your budget. Since 2000, when FOPAL was created, the world has spent over $32 trillion in pursuing security through weaponry. My country alone has now pledged over $1.7 trillion to modernize the nuclear arsenal. And the more we perfect this, the less security we get. This is not the kind of thinking that conscience leads. So there's a task before us. We cannot be apathetic. There's a task before us. We cannot be selfish. There's a task before us that an awakened conscience says very simply, it's time to move from the love of power to the power of love. We don't need to be ashamed to say we love each other and we love all of humanity without distinction of nation, race, religion. Everyone was created by the same mystery. Every human being breathes the same air. Every war invokes love, love of religion, love of race, love of country, love of me. We need to flip the love of me to the love of we. That's the change. And that power to do that, there's only one power that can move from love of self to selfless love, and that is love itself. And so we're gathered today to support one another in this endeavor. We're gathered today to come together and say, we are committed to that to which we must say yes. Now, Dr. Hung at some point had a calling to ring the bell of the heart and go around the world and say, come together and say yes. We can do the same in our own way. And it's time the nations of the world treated other nations as they want to be treated. That's how peace is obtained. And every time a nation treats another nation in a selfish way, discord happens. The balance of yin and yang goes off. And every time nations treat others as they want to be treated, strength and harmony comes about. World War I, crushing reparations on the Germans. What did we get? The chaos of Nazism. World War II, the Marshall Plan, rebuilding the countries that were vanquished, rebuilding Japan and Germany. What did we get? Democracies, trading partners, and friends. In one instance, we pursued revenge and selfishness. In the other instance, we pursued wisdom. Wisdom works. This is the first time in human history in which the spiritual insight of the unity of the human family has become a practical necessity. It is a practical necessity, or the great small island nations could actually disappear. They could go underwater. What arrogance that we should continue to do this. And I, from a country that burns so much fossil fuel, say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my countrymen and for what the nations of the North have done to the small island states. I'm sorry for the testing of nuclear weapons in the islands in the Pacific. I'm sorry that we forgot that we are one human family, but it's time to move forward. So I say, yes to love, yes to conscience, yes to human security. Thank you.